What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. This is the Olele Salvador Network OSN, and my name is Imano Sapon, but you can call me Olele or Olele Salvador, and that's the same handle. You can find me out on all social media platforms. We're back again with another exciting, in case you missed that episode, and this is going to be an interesting one. Trust me, it's going to be an interesting one. We have all the juice for y'all, all right? Now, before I go into the story, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who have been subscribing to the channel, liking the video, sharing it across. We love you. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for subscribing. Keep sharing the word, keep sharing the links, and then let people know the great work we are doing here. And as we grow together. I don't forget my day ones. I don't forget my day. Anyways, now, in case you missed it, the Ministry of Transport has laid before Parliament a legislative instrument, what we call an LI, and they're basically seeking to amend portions of the Road Traffic Regulations 2012. Now, when these new changes are passed, what's going to happen is the members of Parliament and the ministers of state will be given privileges previously reserved for emergency and specialized vehicles. Olele, what are you saying? You're speaking big English. What are you talking about? Well, there was a legislation or a law in the Traffic and Road Regulations Act, i.e. Regulation 74 of LI 2180, which was really reserved for, high profile people like the president, vice president, emergency services. The amendment they have provided to Parliament will now permit the fitting of sirens or bells as warning appliances on specific classes of vehicles. These vehicles are what you and I know as V8. You know them V8 vehicles, them big vehicles. Before, these people were not part of the reserved, i.e. the justices of the Supreme Court, okay, members of Parliament and ministers of state. Before, it wasn't like that. It was just the head of state, the vice president, the speaker of Parliament, and the chief justice. Now, the inclusion is ministers of state, justices of the Supreme Court, and members of Parliament. The rest, obviously, you see the police vehicle, a motor vehicle used by the National Service, used by the National Ambulance Service, use a motor vehicle used as an ambulance by a hospital clinic, a motor vehicle used by other recognized government security agencies, and a bullion vehicle registered by the licensing authority. So these people are allowed to use sirens. When you use a siren on your car and you don't fall under this list, what's Yamra? What this means is if there is a traffic congestion anywhere in Ghana, these category of people can legally use a siren to make their way through. We are already dealing with that, right? We've had a few instances in traffic where you see somebody blaring their horns and blasting their sirens, say give way, give way, give way. No motorcade ahead of them. It's just them in their V8 tinted glasses driving recklessly, against oncoming traffic or incoming traffic. And now they're looking to make it law, right? Now, that's not all. There is another part of the amendment which indicates that the speed limit regulations, the one you and I are supposed to obey, or once upon a time they were supposed to obey together with us, will no longer apply to the MPs and the ministers of state. Exception from speed limit. The speed limit on a motor vehicle specified in these regulations does not apply to a motor vehicle or when the motor vehicle is being used in the performance of official functions by head of state, the vice president, the speaker of parliament, the chief justice, ministers of state, justices of the Supreme Court, members of parliament, the Ghana National Service, the National Ambulance Service. The rest of the people I'm mentioning there, you know that they are allowed to do that because if there's an emergency, they need to get to the hospital. If there's an emergency, they need to get to the fire situation and quench it. If there's an emergency, they need to get to the crime scene or the robbery scene and make sure that it is curtailed or dealt with, right? But now, what this states or what this is suggesting, should it be passed, is that your MPs, as for the justices of the Supreme Court, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. But your MPs and your ministers of state, they are not under any speed limit restriction. Like I said, where there is where you're supposed to go 50 kilometers per hour, they'll be doing 120. 120. This was laid in Parliament 3 weeks ago, and guess what? Everybody is pissed, including me. I am pissed. You are pissed. Daddy is pissed. Mommy is pissed. Everybody is pissed. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. But we are not the only ones who are condemned this, right? The Ghana Bureau of Public Safety, for them to express shock and disappointment at the amendments, should tell you that this thing has gotten to a place where it shouldn't have gotten to, right? So they released a press statement, and it was just them expressing, their shock. It's a long document, as you can see. It's a long document. This was authorized for immediate release on July 14th, 2024. And basically, they are just vehemently opposing these amendments. And the argument is very simple. The argument is as equal to the argument you are possibly also making. And they are just saying that these things that we are going to allow, if they should pass it and make it law, is going to pose significant risk to public safety. And to them, they also believe that it would undermine equality and disrupt emergency services. Now, if you ask me, I think these concerns are well founded, and they resonate with the general public sentiment. All right, because it reflects, this whole thing reflects on the broader issue of accountability and the disconnect between the political class and the citizens they serve. All right, but I'll get to what I think about this in its full entirety. I want to draw your attention to, when these things happen, and obviously the same lawmakers and the members of parliament, including ministers, see the backlash and the condemnation and the public uproar and all of these things that are spoken after certain things are done in parliament. They take the opportunity to address the media or address the public through the media to tell us why they are doing what they are doing. Now, in this instance, Member of Parliament, Honorable Andy Apia Kubi, who is also a member of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, explained that the move is to deal with the exigencies of the work of MPs.
Indeed, I was privileged to have joined the executive for the last 4 years in the first term of President Nana Akufo-Addo. And I know the shadow of work that ministers go through and how they postpone meetings outside ministries trying to finish their regular job in office and finish all and be confronted with limited time to reach the next destination for the next official duty. You subject such people into the conditions of traffic on the road. Such people cannot meet the deadlines. And therefore, it is imperative for us to give some access to them to be able to meet the deadlines. And let us not forget, if deadlines are not met, it goes to undermine the performance of such public officers or ministries or institutions to the detriment of the expectations of the general public. So if there is any justification in giving special access to any of the Article 71 office holders, then it presumes that all the members of Article 71 office holders ought to be given the same access, so that in the discharge of their duties, we can hold them and we can expect that the productivity will improve because they are not impeded on the road. And we have witnessed situations where some members of parliament and some even state ministers and even some judges have been arrested on the road because they are trying to meet their work schedule. And you go to the police, you go to the attorney general, you go to the IGP. He says, I implement the law as given, and that I cannot help the situation because the law says that. So the remedy is to amend the law to make it lawful for people like that to be able to have special access where necessary.
Honorable Andy Apia Kubi is telling us that They had to do this because really it comes with a job. It comes with a job. Sometimes they're running late, to the parliament, or they're running late to go do something, and it's just every time this conversation comes up and the MPs have to defend themselves, they always say they are in a hurry to go do something in the nation's interest. This conversation of national interest, yeah, it didn't start today. Somewhere in 2019, yeah, City TV, and I say so because I used to work at City TV at the time as a broadcast director. City TV, now known as Channel One TV, embarked on a campaign together with the Ghana Police Service, and that campaign was known as, or was called, War Against Discipline, hashtag Why. You can go on your social media platforms and put in the hashtag Why, and you see some of the stories that came out after that. Now, this campaign was pretty successful, especially with how it was able to name, shame, and then punish persons who would break road traffic regulations. Now, you probably have seen your brother or your sister, caught on camera, on TV, breaking road traffic regulations, and it was pretty, a shameful place to be. And these offenders, some of them obviously were found driving on the shoulder of the roads, so reckless driving. They were driving against oncoming traffic, and they were recklessly overtaking, other vehicles, among many others. Now, some of the high-profile arrests saw Takwa and Swayam MP George Murekuduka, and then former Kade MP Kobna Ohemin. Now, I'm going to show you a video Kind Ketsi City Newsroom at the time when this campaign was ongoing, and they arrested former Kade MP Kobna Ohemin Tenyase, and listen to what happened.
What do you mean by abuse? What do you mean by abuse? What do you mean by abuse?
Oh, please, don't be doing that, please, come.
What do you mean by abuse?
That's the notion out there.
What is the notion? What is the abuse?
Please.
What have I abused?
Please,
I am saying that I have an urgent thing to do in the national interest.
It looks like everybody has an urgent thing to do in national interest.
Who has it again?
All the other drivers.
All the other drivers, higher than a parliamentarian. Well, can you say this in the Congress of US? Parliamentarians are supposed to be in the house by 8 o'clock. You are the same people who come. He is not even going anywhere. To every rule there is an exception. Give me your details. I can go to the IGP and I will drive you there. This is a national interest. I'm not for myself. And if you like, by 8 o'clock, go there and ask whether I'm not there. Film me well. Because I'm serving the national interest. And to every rule, look at the national interest. Because you people have the uniform. We bought the uniform for you.
So you heard it. You heard the condescending response, the condescending defense, the entitlement, the ego, the braggadocio, no regard for even the police, stating that even the uniform you are wearing, I'm a pamamo. Hey, feel me. Feel me. This was in 2019. I think this campaign started in May or so. But guess what? It stalled. The campaign had to stall. Now, according to Samalata Mensah, who still happens to be the managing director for Channel One TV and City TV as well as City FM, he revealed why it stalled.
So that is the reason we are no more on the roads.
It's not because City won't do it again.
Because look, DVLA has given us a whole bus. The bus is still sitting down. And one of the major problems of the police is lack of resources. DVLA came to our aid. They have put a bus at our disposal.
For the war.
What has the police done? Nothing. And I'm not just saying this to blame the police, because there's an upper hand which is also directing the, hey, you are embarrassing politicians. So was the country built only for politicians?
Charlie.
To just have their way?
Everywhere.
Why are we doing this thing to ourselves? So I'm just asking, so what have we done? We go and expose our journalists to all the risks involved. Caleb was all over the place. And at times when you can say, hey, somebody will do something to you, the way you hold cameras, and now we are at a disadvantage because we don't have any protection. Now we can look, even DVLA, if they decide to go on their own, nobody will even listen to them.
Yeah, they need the police.
The police kept telling us, oh, we are training our officers, we are preparing, we are doing this, we are training our officers. Even now, our officers, they will wear white so that they will be identified. Till now, we are going to Christmas. They say they are going to do Father Christmas. And the discipline.
And discipline is now even gone through the roof.
Exactly. I was on the motorway over the weekend. People were just doing U-turn. And I just weep for this country. I just weep for this country.
As it would be, order from above. There's always been that conversation of order from above. Who is responsible for the orders that come from above? You will never get to know, right? But I tell you what, fast forward 2021, the exercise or the campaign will resume again. And once again, most of the culprits that were picked up or were stopped or arrested or processed before court were Ghanaian government officials. They were MPs. And of course, you had Ghanaian vehicle owners, or some were even foreign vehicle owners who were misbehaving and driving recklessly on the road. But you realize that, in accordance to this particular context, these cars that were involved in these reckless acts were owners of the 4x4 V8 vehicles, right? And what they would do, they would illegally install sirens to swerve traffic. So you be in a car and you hear wee, wee, wee. Sometimes you think it's an ambulance, but it's not. It's a 4x4. It could be a Lexus. It could be a Nissan. It could be a Toyota. They are just trying to get their way out. I remember there was a video of a gentleman who was using his father's car to meander through traffic, right? Navigate through the congestion, the traffic congestion, just to go and buy a burger. And he recorded all of that. What we are saying is this is going to be opening a can of more worms, or it's going to be opening more cans of worms if care is not taken. That is why Ghanaians are upset.
But why can't you just set off early, like all of us, so you don't need to have a siren? Why don't you just set off early, account for traffic, use your GPS, wake up earlier?
You cannot anticipate all the circumstances and.
But we do. We, the people who you represent, that's what we do. We set off earlier. We lose sleep so we can get to our place on time.
That is true, Kafui. There are times that I leave my house very early in order to get to where I want to get to, but I don't control the traffic buildup. So I may leave early, but still get to a point where the traffic buildup is such that I'll be extremely late, going to an official function or going to, conduct parliamentary business. So those are some of the exigencies that will necessitate the use of the siren, in order to be able to beat the traffic.
All right.
I feel like the more we get closer to the elections, the higher the intensity of the anger and upsetness lawmakers are making sure Ghanaians should experience. Because I promise you, there are more important things that would really, 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 really need an amendment. There are more important things in our constitution, in our laws, in our regulations that will need a second look. This preferential treatment is in sharp contrast to the expectations placed on other essential workers who must endure the same traffic condition without such exemptions. Frontline healthcare workers, for example, who are very critical in saving lives, they are not afforded such privileges. They navigate the same congested roads. I'm talking about doctors. Because I remember in 2019 and even 2021, doctors were stopped. They were driving their own cars. Mind you, I'm not saying that frontline workers in an ambulance, no, because an ambulance is allowed to have that. I'm talking about doctors. I'm talking about nurses who have to navigate traffic either by their own cars or by joining public transport. You have to wake up very early to get to the hospital and save lives. Teachers, who shape the future of the nation, they have to adhere to speed limits and traffic regulations. I can go on and on, but I'm just trying to say that these professions, among many others, are pivotal to the fabric of society, and they operate within the constraints of the law. That's why this underscores the inconsistency and potential injustice of the proposed amendment. Now, if you look at the Bureau of the Public Safety statement, you realize that it highlights the broader implications of the proposed amendments, and the document we put back on the screen for you to see. They emphasize a threat to public safety and the integrity of governance, and they are basically saying that if you allow the MPs and the ministers to bypass speed, that is what the speed limits, and they use sirens, the risk of accidents increases, potentially endangering lives. Because the roads that they capture in there, these are roads that are in schools, are around schools, roads that are around market areas, roads that are around, highly populated areas. It's not just a highway. This move, it could even make the situation that we are already dealing with, which is the illegal use of sirens, prevalent. It could exacerbate. Yeah, this could exacerbate the already prevalent issue of illegal siren use, which has really been a focal point of public concern. So when you look at the context I provided, the historical context I provided by the War Against Indiscipline campaign, which were initiated by CDTV and the Ghana Police Service, you realize that it simply underscores the recurring issue of traffic law violations by high-profile individuals. And you're confirmed Uncle School, there is that group. But this one tells you why and how far we have gotten here, including the MPs. Because when that campaign was done, the campaign revealed a pervasive disregard for road regulations among the political elite. This proposed amendment, for me, it's a clear deviation from the principles of equality and accountability that should really underpin democratic governance. MPs and ministers are public servants. They are elected to represent and serve the interests of the people. Their actions and privileges should reflect a commitment to the rule of law and the safety of all citizens, rather than creating a tiered system of legal exemptions. You cannot think about yourself so highly, or think about yourself higher than any other person. To be very honest, if the citizens did not give you the votes to go into parliament, to take decisions and make decisions that will favor them, then you're not what you think you are. You are not who you say you are. And if you think it's a conversation of traffic congestion and you are not able to get to your destination on time, how about actually implementing the train network? Those speed trains that was promised us a couple of years back. Where are those speed trains? If the conversation really is about congestion on our roads, traffic congestion, that is making you abuse your power and making you go against the traffic regulations, then you have the power to actually introduce or actually get the roads to be expanded, get the road network to be better, get the train network to be working easily. I mean, that's why we put you there. And I mean, if the conversation, the reason has to do with getting to a destination, because a doctor can argue for the same thing. A teacher can argue for the same thing. You are living at Kaswa as a student, or even as a public service worker, or even as a private service worker. Remember the last time when we saw a story of people who were commuting from Accra to Kaswa. They were in traffic for hours. Some got home at 3 a.m. and they had to come back to Accra the same day. Imagine leaving the office, say at 5, you're getting home at 3 a.m. and you have to come back and your boss does not care. Your boss does not care.
A few moments later.
Well, the good news is government has withdrawn the LI. And this is news just coming in whilst recording this video. I'm going to quote the website. This is coming from citynewsroom.com. And it says, the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Martina J. Mensah Kosa, has officially withdrawn the controversial legislative instrument on behalf of the Minister for Transport. Now, the LI, which sought to grant members of parliament, judges, and ministers the privilege to use sirens and exempt them from speed limits while performing their official duties, has been withdrawn. Fast forward. Now, for me, this is the most interesting part of the story for me. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, had also weighed in on the matter, denying any knowledge of such a legislative instrument before the House. He clarified that Parliament does not have the constitutional power to amend regulations, further complicating the already contentious proposal. And I quote, he says, "There is nothing like that before Parliament," Bagbin asserted during a public lecture on private member bills at the University of Ghana. "I thought," and I quote again, "I thought something was being done behind my back, but all my directors confirmed they had not seen any such ally." What is going on? Is this the way to test the country's pulse or the anger of the citizens or something? Because this isn't the first time we are hearing things like this. You hear something coming from a particular source, coming from a particular quarter or particular quarters, and they say, "Oh, it's not true. Oh, we haven't seen it. Oh, we haven't done this. We haven't done that." So, Mr. Speaker, if you haven't seen it, who then saw it, and why or how has it been withdrawn? Because you can only withdraw something you presented, right? What is going on, Ghana? What's going on? What is going on? The Speaker says he didn't know about this ally. And this ally was proposed about 3 weeks ago. What is going on? My goodness. Anyways, like I said, if the conversation is about swerving traffic congestion, I think there's a problem that needs to be fixed. A major problem that will benefit everybody, including you, the minister, including you, the MP. Everybody. Fix the train network. Improve the road network. And maybe, just maybe, we won't be having conversations or discussions about if you deserve the right to break traffic regulations and drive against incoming traffic or oncoming traffic. Maybe, just maybe. Developed countries have their MPs and ministers riding on bicycles. They wake up early, they ride their bicycles to parliament. They understand the importance of servitude. They understand that the citizens are not lower than them. They are who they are because the citizens give them the power to be who they are. They shouldn't use their power to further unsettle them, to further stress them, to further burden them. And like I said, without this thing being passed or this thing going through parliament or this thing being whatever amended, some of you guys are already abusing it anyways. I hope the MTTD really takes upon themselves to really clamp down on these activities because it's becoming unbecoming. Well, we thank God that indeed is withdrawn. We're looking forward to the next announcement, and hopefully it does not infuriate the citizens the more. In the crowd.